I'm gonna be really vulnerable. I'm being really vulnerable in this video. So guys, please go easy on me in the comments because this is not an easy video to make, but I feel like it's an important one that people could maybe relate to. Oh my gosh. Hey you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Rachel. I am a digital nomad and ADHDer, which basically just means I got a lot of chaos going on in my brain that I'm trying to learn how to deal with, and I don't have an office. I work from the internet, so I can travel around and work from anywhere. Right now that's in Guatemala, so this is my condo in Guatemala. But I do a lot of videos about ADHD, my life with ADHD, my experience, things I've learned, stuff like that. So welcome. Please, before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos. I post 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which so far is going pretty well. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. So today, I'm gonna get a little bit vulnerable. I wasn't initially sure if I wanted to share this part of my life quite yet, but I'm going to talk about my experience with anxiety, specifically social anxiety. And I'm going to, throughout this video and discussion about my experience with social anxiety, talk specifically about tips that I've learned for dealing with coffee dates. So coffee dates are a really common thing now. I don't know if they're not specifically popular now, but coffee dates are a really common way that people connect with other people, catch up with friends, etc. And if you have social anxiety or you've experienced any sort of social frustration or anything like that, or you're anything like me, coffee dates can be really intimidating. So there are a couple different tips I've learned for dealing with coffee dates that I would like to share with you. So first, I'll tell a little bit about my experience before we dive into the tips. So I've been, how do I want to say this? I've had ADHD since I was about 7 years old, and I started developing some social anxiety in about high school. So since high school, I have had kind of a tough time when it comes to making and keeping friendships. I am someone who really enjoys being alone. I love doing things by myself. I am a total introvert, though that may seem surprising on camera. I'm very friendly and outgoing around people that I'm comfortable with, and the camera happens to be in that circle of people that I'm comfortable with. So it may be a little bit surprising that I'm a complete introvert. I recharge by being by myself. Every year, like twice a year, Steven leaves Michigan and goes to California for about a week. He does this twice a year, and that's like heaven for me. Not because I don't love my husband, but because I love just having the house to myself, being able to have Scarlett sleep in bed with me, which she's not allowed to when Steven's home. But I am a complete and utter introvert, and I started to develop some social anxiety in high school that has gotten a lot better. I've learned a lot of ways to deal with it, but still exhibits itself to this day. Actually, because of my anxiety, I ended up getting my first tattoo. I'll show it to you guys. This is my tattoo. Let's see if the camera will focus. Sorry if you can't see it, but it is a lion with the phrase "courage, dear heart" on top. Sometimes people have a hard time reading it, but what it says is "courage, dear heart." So this is actually Aslan from the Chronicles of Narnia. If you haven't, I mean, you've probably heard of Narnia. I don't know how anyone could never have heard of Narnia, but in the Narnia books, if you're not familiar with them, there is a lion, Aslan, and Aslan represents God. It's common knowledge that the Narnia books are based on the Bible. C.S. Lewis, the author, was a very strong Christian and infused a lot of Christian themes into the books, and I myself am a Christian. And so this represents to me Aslan, or God, and the fact that I don't have to be anxious because God is with me. And so what the phrase "courage, dear heart" is from is in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is book 5 or 6, I don't remember, it's been a while since I've read them, but in the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, there is this storm that this boat with a bunch of the characters is going through. So in the midst of this crazy storm, and there's all this stuff happening, in the form of an albatross, the voice of Aslan, or God, comes to the main character, Lucy, and says, "Courage, dear heart." So in the midst of this crazy storm, God is coming to her and saying, "You don't have to worry, I've got you," basically. And that quote has really been meaningful to me in my struggle with anxiety, because even on the days where I just have this knot in my stomach and I don't know why, or I'm freaking out about something and I feel like things are not going to be okay, I can rest because I know that God has me. And so that is the meaning of this tattoo. And so that's been something that's played a big part in my struggle with anxiety, is getting to the point where I realize that God is with me and I don't have to worry because He's there and I can rely on Him. And something I found was that coffee dates were something that people would want to do when I would want to catch up with them. So if, say I, reconnect with a friend from high school that I haven't seen in a couple of years, and we're talking on Facebook and we're like, oh my gosh, we should totally catch up. Coffee dates are something that most people want to do in order to catch up. I'm much more of a let's go do something hands-on, where the pressure isn't on just sitting and having a conversation one-on-one. That's a lot of pressure to me, and it's not something I enjoy. Actually, kind of a funny story. So my best friend Sam, we are friends because she initially was best friends with my sister-in-law, who is my other best friend. And so when my sister-in-law moved away, Sam and I were kind of like, okay, you know what, we're gonna be friends. And the first coffee date we ever had, we were meeting up to talk about Lauren, my sister-in-law's bachelorette party, because I was her maid of honor and Sam was in the bridal party. And so we met up to talk about the bridal party and what we were gonna do for the bachelorette party. And within the first 5 minutes, we discussed everything we needed to discuss. And we just kind of like sat there like, okay, yeah, so that's what we're gonna do for the party. Yeah, so the weather, right? And it was so awkward. Eventually I made up something about, oh, my dog's at home and I need to let her out, and I got up and booked it out of there. And now we're comfortable around each other. Now we hang out well, when I'm in Michigan, we hang out all the time, and we'll laugh about that because it was so incredibly awkward. And fortunately, we powered through the awkward stage of the friendship, and we're really good friends now, and I miss her super much. I miss her a lot. But we're really good friends now, but especially that first coffee date was painfully awkward. And so I have found that, coffee dates can be painfully awkward. And there's a couple different things that I've learned over the years of having to deal with these as someone with ADHD, who's a total introvert and has experienced a level of social anxiety in my life, that I would like to share with you, because I know for a fact I can't be the only person who doesn't love coffee dates. So if you are a person who experiences some level of social anxiety or just really hates coffee dates because of the pressure, you are definitely not alone, and I have some tips to share with you. So my very first tip is to get there early. So if you are meeting someone for coffee, especially if it's one-on-one and you're kind of intimidated, you're not sure how it's gonna go, you're a little bit nervous, getting there first. Even I like to get pretty much everywhere 15 minutes early, because if I'm not 15 minutes early, then I'm 15 minutes late. So I get everywhere 15 minutes early, but I found that getting somewhere early gives me time to kind of sit, calm down, get my thoughts together, and get comfortable in the environment. Plus I can choose where we sit, and that can kind of help to kind of feel like you're meeting on your terms. So that can kind of help with dispersing the anxiety. I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say here. There's a holiday that's about to happen, so fireworks have been going off like crazy. So if you hear random like firework explosions, no, I am not being shot at. It's just going to be the Guatemalan Independence Day soon, and people really love to celebrate ahead of time with fireworks that often go on all night. It's really annoying, but we're celebrating, so whatever. So getting somewhere early can really help with getting rid of some of the anxiety, because you get to pick where you sit. You kind of get to have this on your terms. You can kind of get there and calm down and have a minute to think before the other person gets there. So it's not like you've been building this up in your brain, you're freaking out, you get there and bam, you're expected to socialize right away. That can be really overwhelming, especially for me. In my experience, I'm gonna be really vulnerable. I'm being really vulnerable in this video. So guys, please go easy on me in the comments, because this is not an easy video to make, but I feel like it's an important one that people could maybe relate to. Oh my gosh. My second tip would be to not only get there early, but also get your drink ahead of time. So if you are a latte girl or guy, grab your latte. If you like frappuccinos, grab yourself a frappuccino, but order before the other person gets there, because that will build a buffer of time for when the person actually gets there and you say hello, to when you're expected to sit down and have a conversation. Just like getting there can kind of be stressful, having the person actually get there and say hello to you can also be a little bit stressful, because you're you're like, okay, this is it. Like I need to socialize now. And so for me, making sure I have my drink before the other person gets there can make it a lot easier, because they can get there, we can say hello, and instead of launching right into the one-on-one and the conversation and the like just staring at each other, you can say, hey, well, I already grabbed mine, so how about you go get your drink and I'll wait here. And that can kind of let that initial anxiety from the greeting and saying hello and the initial brief catching up that happens, that'll give you some space to kind of clear your head, calm down a little bit, and not be so worked up. Because I've found that being nervous and working myself up because I think something's not gonna go well is often what ends up making it not go well. So if you kind of have these stages where you can like slowly almost dip your toes in to the social situation, that can really help. So get there and adjust to the water, if you will. Have the person get there and say hello, and then adjust to the water. And then you can further dive into the water of the social situation, kind of like ease yourself in, if that makes sense. If I'm not making any sense, I apologize. Please let me know in the comments and I will try and word it a little bit better. But just kind of easing yourself into the situation is what I found to be very helpful. So kind of like the saying says, how do you boil a frog? I don't know, it's how do you eat an elephant? It's just kind of the parable of boiling the frog. What the heck? I'm not sure what's happening. My neighbor is yelling. Sorry about that. The whole story of the frog boiling. So the frog is sitting in the water and the person kind of like turns on the water, and the water, or let's start over. There's a frog in a pot of water and someone turns on the flame so that the burner is on and the water is starting to get a little bit warmer. But the frog adjusts and is like, okay, this was warmer. What on earth is happening? So the frog is in the water and starts to just kind of adjust as the water gets warmer and warmer, and before the frog knows it, he's boiling. So if you kind of slide yourself into the situation and get used to it and then amp it up a little bit, and then get used to it and amp it up a little bit, soon you'll be having a fun conversation, catching up with someone, and you won't even realize that you're doing it. Let me gather my thoughts, because that guy yelling was very, very alarming, and now I've kind of lost my train of thought. I'm not a fan of having neighbors. Okay. All right, and my final tip is one that can seem a little bit, I don't know, I kind of feel dumb when I do this, or I started to feel dumb when I started doing this, but over time it's become really helpful and is a really practical tip for making sure things go well. And that is to plan out some questions or conversation topics ahead of time in case you run out of things to talk about. So for example, I tend to, like, my mind kind of goes blank when I get anxious. And so if I'm in a social situation and I'm not comfortable and I'm feeling that anxiety, all of a sudden I can just kind of be like, what is there to talk about? The fact that we have like 10 fingers and 10 toes, that's pretty cool, I guess. Can we talk about that? My mind goes completely blank and I can't think of anything to talk about, and it's just awkward. So if you pre-plan a couple of things to talk about, whether that be an actual conversation topic or an interesting, oh my gosh, stop yelling. So that could be an interesting conversation topic or a question that you could ask, but having some things in your back pocket ready to go for when those awkward silences come is very, very helpful. So don't feel dumb if you have to sit and write out some things before you meet your friend for coffee, because that's absolutely a normal thing to do. It's absolutely something that can help, and you'll be thankful that you did it. If there's an awkward silence or a pause, or you just don't know what to say next, the conversation's dying, you're fine. So then my tip number, I think we're on number 4 now, and this is something that has been really, really difficult for me. This is something that's been difficult for me and something that I struggle with, is not feeling like you have to fill all of the silences. So when you're having a conversation and there's a pause, at least for me, I feel the need to fill it. I feel like I need to be interesting. I need to have something to say. If there's a pause, then I need to fill it. I put all the responsibility on myself to keep the conversation going. And something that a friend said to me is, you don't have to do that. Don't put that pressure on yourself that you are responsible for filling every single silence. Let the other person take a turn. Because guess what? The other person, it's very possible that they're feeling just as uncomfortable as you are in that social situation. So don't feel like you have to come up with absolutely everything, and if there is a pause, it's your fault. Don't feel like anything is your fault. So if there is a pause, Sure, fill it once in a while, but take turns. Let the other person have a turn to fill the silence, because I promise you, you are not the reason that there are silences. It's a two-way street, absolutely. And so taking some of that pressure off of yourself to keep those silences filled can be so helpful and so beneficial. So my final tip is to have an escape route planned, and that can sound kind of funny, but bear with me. So something that causes me a lot of anxiety is when there's just an indefinite amount of time, we don't have a specific plan, I don't know how long I'm gonna have to have a conversation for, how long I'm gonna have to socialize for. So something that's really beneficial to me is to have a hard stop. So I like to schedule my coffee dates so that there's only a certain amount of time that I have and then I have to go do something else. So for example, right before a doctor's appointment where, oh, I'll meet you for coffee at 12, but at 1 I have to go. So having something that you have to go do at a certain amount of time can help to kind of ease some of that anxiety, because you know exactly what's expected of you. You know exactly how much time you're going to have, how much time you're going to need to fill, and so you can kind of relax and enjoy a little bit more. And it can also take away that uncertainty of how to end the conversation or how to walk away or how to say, okay, I'm done, I need to go home now, because that can happen. Socializing can be really, really taxing for a lot of people, myself included, especially if I'm uncomfortable in that situation. So having a reason that I have to end the conversation and having something that can kind of take the blame is really, really beneficial. So whether it be you have a class coming up, or you have to go to work, or you have a doctor's appointment, if you are nervous about a coffee date that you're gonna have, or any social situation that you're gonna be a part in, or really any situation at all, making sure that you have indefinite stop time is great and can help so much. Even if it's not something you have to go and do, you can just decide, okay, you know what, we're gonna meet at 12, but at 1:30 I'm gonna leave. You don't have to explain yourself. You can even just say right when you get there, hey, by the way, I have to go at 1:30. You don't have to have an actual reason. Don't lie about it. Don't say, oh yeah, I have a doctor's appointment at 1:30, so I gotta go, if you don't. But you can say, yeah, I gotta go at 1:30. And don't feel bad about saying that. That can take the pressure off of you. You don't have to worry about just socializing for an endless amount of time, and you also won't have to worry about how to end that conversation, because that can be one of the most stressful parts of having a conversation or meeting someone or having any sort of social interaction, is not knowing how to leave. So pre-planning that ahead of time, either backing it up against something that you have to go and do, a former commitment that you have, or just deciding to tell the person, hey, I have to go at X amount of time, can be really helpful. Ooh, one bonus tip that I completely forgot, but fortunately remembered before I was completely finished filming and packed all my stuff up, is having something to do with your hands. So a lot of times in situations, I'm not quite sure what to do with my hands. And so that's why I like going for coffee or meeting for dinner or something like that, because you have something you can be doing. And like I've mentioned in some of my other videos, doing something or having something that can busy part of your brain can free up the rest of your brain to kind of be uninhibited in having a conversation or getting things done. So having something to do with your hands can be really beneficial. So having a coffee to drink, once you're done with your coffee, maybe switch to water, because otherwise you may end up super jittery if you have like 3 cups of coffee. But make sure you have something to do with your hands that can also help to kind of free up your brain to focus on the actual socializing. Socializing. All right, that's it. So I would love to hear about your tips and tricks for dealing with social situations when you might be feeling some anxiety or some uncomfortableness at all. So let me know in the comments below what tips you have for making social situations easier and more fun, because at the end of the day, the goal of any situation, or any social situation rather, is to have fun and connect with people. So take some of that pressure off of yourself, give these tips a try, and let me know what you think. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below and tell me your experiences, any tips you have. In addition, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss any videos that I have coming up, which I have some fun things planned for you guys, and I am really excited to start putting those together. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.